A financial alert is sweeping the nation right now for older Americans. And while it's easy to get overwhelmed, I need you to hear me out calmly for the next several minutes. The information flying around the internet is a tricky blend of truth, confusing updates, and outright predatory schemes. In the last day, countless messages have popped up announcing direct payments as high as $2,300 have been greenlit due to a budget tweak related to living expense aid and tax credit updates. For some, this news sparked a sense of relief, a feeling that assistance is finally on the way. For others, it triggered immediate suspicion. Is this legitimate, or just another clever trap? In this breakdown, I'll walk you through the entire situation in straightforward language. We'll uncover what this development truly signifies, the reason behind the overnight phrasing, who might be eligible, how it intersects with Social Security, supplemental security income, disability benefits, and pensions, the potential timeline for any payments, and, most crucially, the steps you must take to shield yourself from fraudsters. First, we have to tackle the most widespread point of confusion. Hearing that rebate payments were authorized suddenly does not translate to every retiree automatically receiving a fresh stimulus payment, similar to the ones during the health crisis years. That is not the reality here. What's actually being described is a streamlined authorization of resources and administrative action that enables specific tax rebates and refundable credits to be distributed more rapidly to individuals who are already eligible under long-standing programs. Let me simplify that even further. This isn't fundamentally about creating new cash for all. This is about removing logjams in the system. Funds that were already permitted under current regulations, and in some instances already due to people, can now be calculated and sent out faster. And yes, retirees on fixed budgets can be part of this group because numerous credits and reconciliations are linked to pressures from daily costs, medical spending, and retirement income scenarios. Now let's examine the figure that keeps circulating. Up to $2,300. That specific amount is not a universal one-size-fits-all sum. It's a ceiling, a top limit. It's the kind of headline-grabbing number that makes people stop and look. But in practice, your individual amount, assuming you qualify for anything, hinges entirely on your personal circumstances. So why does that number appear everywhere? Because frequently, several different credits, rebates, or account adjustments can combine for one person. One individual could be due a refund tied to healthcare costs. Another might be eligible for a credit related to home energy efficiency. Someone else may qualify for a property tax adjustment. And others could see reconciliations linked to their retirement income level or prior year tax data. When multiple pieces align for a single person, the combined total can increase, and in certain situations, approach that maximum number being discussed. However, that absolutely does not imply everyone will see that full amount. Some may receive several $100s, others might get more, and many may receive nothing at all. It all comes down to your income bracket, your tax filing status, your eligibility for particular credits, and whether your records with relevant agencies are up to date. Next, we must connect this directly to Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and pension plans, as this area causes significant anxiety. If you're hearing rumors that this will substitute your monthly Social Security deposit, alter your payment schedule, or decrease your pension, please pause and breathe. These rebate payments are distinct from your standard monthly Social Security benefit. They are not a replacement for your retirement, disability, or survivor payments. In the vast majority of cases, your regular Social Security deposit should arrive as it always does. They are also not engineered to subtract money from your pension. This isn't a pension exchange. It's generally processed as an isolated payment connected to credits or account corrections. Now, SSI requires particular caution because SSI is needs-based and has strict asset limits. Often, single-instance rebates or refundable credits aren't classified the same as recurring monthly income. But here's the critical nuance. If the money lands in your account and remains there for an extended period, potentially lifting your total resources above the permitted limit, that's when complications can arise. So for SSI recipients, the concern isn't solely about receiving a payment. It's about how you handle those funds after they arrive. A common question is this a cost of living adjustment? No, this is not equivalent to a COLA. A COLA is a permanent increase to your future monthly benefits. Rebates and refundable credits are typically one-time disbursements intended to address or support past timeframes and past expenses that weren't fully accounted for. But it's understandable why people link the two, because both stem from the same root cause. Inflation and escalating daily costs have been tightening the budget for those on fixed incomes. Prices have surged for housing, food, prescriptions, utilities, and coverage. Lawmakers recognize that many older adults are facing hardship even with yearly increases. Rebates and credits represent one method. Government systems attempt to alleviate that strain, even if only for a limited time and for specific populations. Let's discuss timing, because this element fuels panic. Even if authorization occurred rapidly, payments do not magically appear in every account immediately. Agencies still must process data, confirm eligibility, schedule direct deposits, and mail physical checks. Some individuals might see funds earlier because their tax and benefit information is already simple to validate. Others could wait several weeks, and some may need to update their details before any disbursement can be sent. That's precisely why you shouldn't feel alarmed if you don't see a change right now, and you shouldn't presume an error just because a neighbor claims they've already gotten paid. Now, I must emphasize the scam danger, because whenever urgent news circulates about money for seniors, bad actors spring into action. Con artists adore headlines about approved rebate checks because it furnishes a perfect pretext to reach out to you. They will dispatch fraudulent texts, emails, and make robocalls insisting you must verify your details, pay a minor processing fee, or click a link to claim your funds. That is not how legitimate payments operate. Government entities do not request gift cards. They do not ask you to wire money. They do not demand private passwords or login data over the phone. They do not use high-pressure scare tactics. If you get a communication that frightens you, hurries you, or states your money will vanish unless you act right this second, consider that a major red flag. The most secure path is to depend on official letters in the mail and the same direct deposit channels you already use for your standard benefits. So, who stands the best chance of qualifying? Every situation is unique, but seniors with low to moderate earnings, significant healthcare outlays, or specific credits connected to housing or energy costs are frequently the ones who see gains from these kinds of reconciliations. Also, here's a point many miss. You can obtain refundable credits even if you have no tax liability. Some think, I don't owe taxes, so I can't get a tax-related benefit. That's incorrect. Refundable credits can still result in a payout even when your tax owed is zero. That's the mechanism behind some of these rebate-style checks. Veterans and those receiving VA benefits are also inquiring if this impacts them. Generally, VA disability or pension payments are separate from tax rebates and Social Security. A rebate typically does not lower your VA benefit. It also usually isn't counted as income for VA programs. But similar to SSI and other needs-based initiatives, retaining a large lump sum in an account for a prolonged duration could influence specific eligibility thresholds. So if you do receive funds, think ahead about how you'll manage and spend them wisely. Do you need to submit an application? For many, payments can be automatic if you've already filed a tax return or you're already in the system with current information. But for those who haven't filed taxes in many years because it wasn't required, you might need to take simple actions to ensure your information is on record. This doesn't mean complex forms. It doesn't mean paying a third party. It usually means confirming your address, direct deposit info, and personal details are up to date with the agencies that already send you payments. Another recurring question is, will they reclaim this money later, or will it shrink my future benefit deposits? As a rule, rebates and refundable credits are not loans. They do not require repayment. They do not diminish your future Social Security amounts. However, if a payment is sent by mistake, agencies possess the authority to correct errors. That's why accuracy is vital, and why you should never supply incorrect information in an attempt to qualify. I need to recalibrate expectations at this point. Not every senior will get $2,300. Some might see a few $100s, some might see a bit more, and some may not be eligible whatsoever. Headlines naturally zoom in on the highest possible figure. Your personal sum depends on your income, filing status, benefit mix, and which credits pertain to you. What's most important is that you grasp how these programs interact and how to ensure you receive what you're legally owed without endangering your benefits or getting duped by a scam. So, what occurs after approval? And what should your move be if you think you're eligible but no payment arrives? This is critical because seniors sometimes miss out on funds simply by assuming the system will always locate them automatically. Agencies do attempt this, but records aren't flawless. Minor issues can obstruct payments: an outdated address, a bank account that's been closed, missing tax data, or identity verification hiccups. Therefore, if you believe you qualify based on your income level, medical bills, or past tax filings, and you don't receive anything within the general distribution period, your first step is to avoid panic and avoid paying anyone who promises they can unlock your money. Begin with your information. For Social Security recipients, verify your mailing address and direct deposit details are correct. For those who file taxes, confirm your most recent return is accurate and that no identity verification problems are pending. Often, once basic records are fixed, delayed payments can be released without any extra applications. What about programs like Medicaid, SNAP, food assistance, housing aid, or SSI? In most cases, one-time rebates and refundable credits are not tallied as regular monthly income, so they shouldn't reduce your monthly benefit amounts. But programs that examine how much money you hold in your accounts, known as resource or asset limits, can be impacted if you retain the money for too long. If a lump sum arrives and sits in your checking account for months, it might temporarily push you above certain thresholds. That doesn't mean you've done anything improper, but it does mean you should strategize. Use the funds for necessary costs or savings in permissible ways. Settling high-interest debt, covering medical procedures, purchasing essential items, or making critical home repairs are common uses. Let's talk about utilizing extra money prudently, because this also matters deeply. Many seniors are under such constant pressure that any additional funds are absorbed instantly by overdue bills, medications, groceries, or rent. These needs are completely real. But if you can take one moment to consider, what action would ease your stress over the longer term? Catching up on utility bills to prevent shut-off notices, paying down high-interest credit card balances, addressing medical appointments you've postponed, or setting aside even a modest emergency buffer can profoundly protect your financial stability. Now, let's step back and look at the broader landscape. This discussion about rebates ties into a larger picture. Retirement income in America. Most retirees depend on a combination of Social Security, perhaps a pension, maybe personal savings, and occasionally part-time employment. Inflation has made it increasingly difficult for fixed incomes to cover everything. COLAs help, but they can trail behind real-world price hikes, especially for housing and healthcare, which often rise quicker than the general inflation rate. Rebates and refundable credits are one tool in the government's kit to help bridge that gap, even if temporarily. However, it is vital not to depend on these rebates as a steady income source. They are not guaranteed annually. They fluctuate with budgets and policy shifts. That's why staying informed about your ongoing benefits is so crucial. Understanding how Social Security is computed, what your pension rules state, and which assistance programs you might qualify for. Knowledge is your best form of protection. Is this tied to new legislation or executive actions? In truth, many of these rebates stem from adjustments within existing laws that permit agencies to distribute money faster or rectify prior underpayments. Sometimes, budget agreements or special funding measures grant agencies the authority to accelerate processing or release funds that were already allocated but not yet distributed. That can create a sense of suddenness. Hence, people describe it as happening overnight. But it frequently builds upon rules already on the books. I also want to speak to the emotional dimension of this. Financial strain impacts more than your wallet. It affects sleep, worry levels, and your fundamental sense of security. Hearing about potential payments can generate hope, but it can also lead to letdown if expectations become inflated. So, here's the most constructive approach. Stay calm, be realistic, and be proactive. If you receive a payment, employ it in a manner that fortifies your stability. If you don't receive one, it doesn't mean you've made an error. It may simply indicate you aren't in the qualifying groups for this specific relief effort. 7.